Implementing changes from my perspective and based on the research report that was conducted, I begin by understanding that we're working within the space of franchising side of a business, where implementing change can actually be quite challenging. And in terms of changing, I guess the structure of the business is almost not obtainable because you're running based on a company, a mother company that's already in existence, and you're mirroring your business off that. So the business that I'm working with was a bit of a challenge in that sense because we were confined by what can actually be changed and what can be done from a franchising point of view. When discussing the implementation of change within the real estate industry, and in particular one company, it's important to first identify the critical behaviours and related competencies that are required to achieve the strategy that the business is trying to achieve. In terms of actually achieving what is set out by the company in terms of making that change, first of all, it's important to increase that open communication. That's key within a business because if employees can't communicate properly and aren't aware of what's going on, we'll often see a barrier put up and a resistance to change. Second of all, it's important to establish program goals. So what are we actually going to achieve out of, in this case, putting forward training for these employees? What do we aim to achieve from that? And then it's choosing the training that's going to be specific to your industry or your company in particular. And one that I've chosen is Tom Panos's Real Estate Gym, which is a subscription which real estate professionals can subscribe to. And it gives them monthly and even daily updates and encouragements and tips on achieving your real estate goals. So for an individual working in the real estate industry, you'll often see fluctuations in your business and in terms of your response, I guess, to the market. And this real estate gym is a motivation, not only a motivation for the employees, but it also gives them guidance. In a real time kind of example, the real estate market's quite low at the moment in terms of auction clearance rates, and we're seeing the actual demand on selling properties. So real estate professionals can be in a time where they're uncertain of their career, and training offers them that security that they can offer the best service. Also, it's looking at how will you actually roll out the training and at the right time. So right now in the real estate industry, you're not bothering anyone by putting your staff through training because it's very quiet time. So good to pick a time similar to now or a time that suits your employees, and that can be done through the open conversation that we discussed earlier. To have that conversation and then find a time that's suitable and reasonable to conduct. Then it's the next step would be tracking the improvement we're seeing based on kind of what client meetings are we seeing. That's specific to real estate. So how many clients are we meeting with? Recent sales that we've had, so sales results, and the client satisfaction. So is the client actually seeing benefit from the individual going through training? If yes, that's beneficial. If not, then has your training actually addressed the issue at hand? And then I guess benchmarking your results afterwards, after the training, with your results that you were getting previous to the training. Lastly, in that implementation of change within real estate specifically, it's important to encourage feedback from employees. This can be used across all industries, but it's highly beneficial because getting that feedback from employees tells us, is it working? And are they actually finding it beneficial? Because the last thing a business wants to do is invest in their employees in something that's not actually benefiting them, or it's actually making the situation worse. And this can be done in many ways. If people are going through training that's not beneficial, staff feel like they're still not achieving what they'd like to, and will remain with that low staff morale, which was one of the key issues that I found in the business that I was reporting in. So addressing that and getting that feedback from the employee of how can we change it and what kind of differences can we make so that the training is most beneficial. Outlining the issues is key. Before going into the change process, you need to understand what are the issues that are really at heart of why we're going through this change process. What I found with the report that I conducted within the real estate company that I was focusing on was issues with the business of poor staff morale. This kind of ended up being a surface issue, which kind of delving deeper and probing into different questions allowed me to uncover that the real issues at heart focused around new market entrants with disruptive business models made it really difficult for employees to compete in a market that was going into a very quiet time. And like I spoke before, a real life event at the moment is that real estate industry is seeing a real slow in terms of properties coming on the market and also those clearance rates and being able to achieve what's expected by the vendor. So for me, understanding that key issue was that the employees at the business weren't feeling confident based on new market entrances with these disruptive business models. Inevitably, to remain competitive in the market, it was key that we overcome this as part of the change process, overcoming that I guess uncertainty and the low staff morale that was as an effect of the new market entrances. The recommendations that I suggest to implement are all focused around trying to implement, I guess, in the most effective way. And what it was that I suggested and recommend for implementation is formal training on an ongoing basis. This would be 6 monthly with focuses on topics that are relevant to the employee's needs. So this would require being specific to real estate, and we would have categories such as issues regarding vendors, issues regarding buyers, issues surrounding negotiations, and market insider knowledge. They're kind of the 4 key things that I found across my research that become concerns for real estate agents that are working within a volatile industry. Staying up to date with these gives them that competitive edge, and hopefully and confidently will give them that step above others and that new market entrances to be a step above and not to be affected, I guess, when they come into the market. Currently, employees within real estate businesses are only required to renew their real estate license once a year. This is just a very basic overview and training of legislation that's coming up for renewal and potentially newly implemented over the last year. It's a very brief training that can kind of be brushed over, and that's why I don't believe that's sufficient enough to classify as training for these employees. So implementing this extra training 6 monthly would give them a halfway mark in between renewing their license, where they could bring to light those big questions of vendor issues, buyers issues, negotiation, market insight, and that knowledge that they want to have that competitive edge. Looking at the implementation, and in particular splitting it into the structural and strategic implementation of these strategies, we would look at 2 key strategies that would be used. 2 forms of training, one being Tom Panos' real estate gym. He's the #1 real estate coach within Australia, and he offers a comprehensive training program that can be done on your computer, it can be done on your phone, it can be done on tablet, anywhere, anytime. This gives employees the ability to have the most training possible on a needed basis, so whenever they're needing. This would be value adding to them because it would look at real estate issues that are, I guess, general to the whole industry and within a modern day setting. It's up to date, and I know Tom Panos giving daily inspirational quotes, and those kind of things that will add to the staff morale, benefit staff daily, and on a long-term basis will provide them with that knowledge they need to be that step above the competitors. The second thing will be 6 monthly full day training to ask questions of real life scenarios. So whether that's regarding the topics spoken about before, vendor issues, buyer issues, negotiation, market insider knowledge. It will cover all of those and allow the employee to have a bit more of a tailored approach to that training. So Tom Panos's will be a general, and it'll be daily, ongoing. This 6 monthly will be focused on those key topics that the individual is facing at that moment. How that training will work. It'll be focused on staff being subject to mandatory training that'll focus on key areas tailored to their needs. This means that no staff member will feel segregated or pointed out. All staff members will have to go through the training to make it fair and give everyone the opportunity to gain that knowledge and have that competitive edge. Also, staff will submit their concerns with personal knowledge that will be taken on board when the training is designed and rolled out. This will give it a tailored approach and be very relevant to what the employee needs at that time. Giving a very different side, as I spoke about, to Tom Panos's real estate gym, which is daily and ongoing. This will be specific to the issues that are at hand. Approaches to training needs to focus on the first identification of critical behaviours and competencies that are required in order to achieve the overall strategy. And that can be on a personal level or a business level. Also, we need to identify practices that the organisation already uses in order to manage its staff. So what are we already doing in the business that can be followed over and in turn add value to that new piece, potentially training, that we would implement as a result of changes that are happening within the industry and the business. From a business perspective, we look at defining key performance objectives. So what do we want to get out of this? Then we test them, and then we'll test the new training, for instance, which would be our strategy, and then testing it, what's the response to it, and then fully implementing it to make that changeover relevant and also more accepted within the workplace. The implementation to the real estate industry, and this can be seen across kind of any sales industry, they revolve around the key objectives of increasing that agent's knowledge, then improve the attitudes of all employees, build strength and skills, and improve workplace behaviour. And this all goes back to our surface issue of low staff morale, which was actually as a result of new market entrances. So this training is attacking both of those issues head on and solving both of them if effective. Comprehensive, relevant training programs are also key. So having, in terms of what was discussed before, Tom Panos's one, real estate gym, very day-to-day, all those real estate issues that you come across. But then we have our comprehensive, every 6 month mandatory training that is on offer and customized to our employees specifically. I guess kind of looking at it, we need to look at activities that are created, then the training goals that we want to achieve, setting those learning objectives, who will train the people, who will be trained, and then the assessment of that training to make sure that the whole process is as effective as possible and tackling the issues that were discussed at the beginning. Typically within sales, and in particular the real estate industry, as an overview, this is what we would see in terms of improving performance within the business. So first off, we would see the performance problem. So in my case, it was low staff morale. Then we flow down and we look at what's the desired change that we would like to see. And essentially, within the real estate business, we'd like to see encouragement for staff and that boosted motivation that they have in the workplace and flowing on into the work that they're doing. We look at then the training needs within a sales industry and looking at the sales training to remain competitive. So that the need for training is ultimately to remain competitive in the market. What training programs then will be used in terms of the ones that we discussed would be the real estate gym with Tom Panos and a 6-monthly mandatory training day that is tailored to the staff needs. So this will look at learning units, what is it that we're actually going to learn, the overview courses that will be incorporated, and the practical experience that will allow us to go out into the market and implement this training into our day-to-day work. It then flows on to an evaluation. So staff need to offer feedback and be encouraged to give feedback based on their either positive or negative experiences with the training. And what are the results? Are we seeing staff seeing good results in the market? Is it paying off? And was it a worthwhile investment? Behavior changes is a key thing. We were looking at staff morale as a small issue to tackle as a result of the new market entrances. And are we seeing staff morale boosted as a result? We're no longer threatened by the competitors. And is that staff morale now higher? And then lastly, we look at the performance improvements. So are we actually seeing more sales in our office? Are we seeing the employees in more meetings with clients, more potential sales coming onto the market? And are we seeing that market interaction? So if we're not making sales still, are we still seeing that interaction where we're value adding and getting out into the market to create future opportunities and potentially boost the business that way? And that will all revolve down to, is what we've implemented, the training, actually beneficial for the business?